man's coach, you look at man's dad. Do it look like his son supposed to be taking your dad? I don't even feel right. Y'all hear this sound? Oh, Tank don't pay his coach.
Hey, come on now.
Coach Barry Hunter trained Tank for this fight with Lamont Roach, not Calvin Ford. A lot of people were saying that this performance has something to do with that. So, is something really going on between Calvin Ford and Tank Davis? Check out what Tank had to say.
Tank, after narrowly avoiding jail time in his most recent citation violation hearing, the WBA lightweight champion Davis is now facing an even more serious issue, a lawsuit that could endanger his career. Davis is facing the fight of his life, and it's not in the boxing ring. Lamont Roach's side has formally appealed the contentious majority draw ruling, claiming that Davis's own statements in the ring served as evidence that the bout was manipulated.
Lamont Roach, his coach, or his manager, or whoever it is, his trainer, somebody filed a lawsuit, right?
His lawyer filed a lawsuit.
Yeah.
When the fight was coming to an end and Roach was still giving Tank a difficult period when Davis told him, "You ain't going to win, they ain't going to give it to you," it caused a lot of controversy. At the time, many people wrote it off as just another Tank mind game. But now, Crouch's legal team is using those exact words as the basis for their lawsuit, arguing that it was an outright admission of corruption. Their reasoning is straightforward. Something was wrong if Tank knew the result before the scorecards were read. Roach's team maintains that the fight was meant to be fair, but was instead manipulated behind the scenes. The lawsuit aims to expose what they describe as a blatant boxing robbery, and if the court rules in their favor, Tank may not be allowed to enter a boxing ring for the next 28 months.
Are being thrown, it has to be a knockdown. I've heard some people saying, that he should be disqualified. He went back to the corner. I don't buy that, to be honest with you. I think that's a warning.
This legal storm couldn't have come at a worse time for Tank, who already has a long history of legal issues, and his decision to leave Florida without permission despite being given multiple chances made the judge wonder if he even respects the law during the hearing. That's 2 years and 4 months of forced inactivity, something that could completely change his career at 30 years old. Losing that much time would put him in a difficult position because the sport moves quickly and younger fighters will be taking over while he's stuck fighting legal battles. The judge made it apparent that she had previously been forgiving of him and had given him special permission to support Team USA Boxing in the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris, but he still chose to disobey the law and go without authorization. His probation officers weren't pleased, and both of them acknowledged that it was challenging to contact him at all, requiring them to go via his team in order to do so. The state wanted him to go to jail, and one of the lawyers suggested a fine of $25,000. Furthermore, the court decided against putting him back in jail despite all the evidence. Instead, she extended his probation for an additional 18 months and fined him $10,000. But that wasn't the true punishment. The real issue now is what this lawsuit could do to his career. The fact that the Tank is no longer there is making the already dire situation worse. Has Calvin Ford, his most trusted advisor, by his side. The seasoned trainer who helped Tank become a superstar is no longer with his team and is now speaking out about what's wrong. Ford has witnessed it all. He was present when Tank encountered legal issues in the past, but was able to maintain his concentration on his career. And when asked about the current state of affairs, Ford stated that Floyd Mayweather Tank is a fighter and should continue doing what he does best. In his view, it was the difference back then. Even in the midst of legal issues at the time, Floyd helped Tank become successful because boxing politics are different and require experience.
Like, when I ain't had no pops, Cal was the person that you feel me, stepped in them shoes. So, no matter if he's not my coach, anything like that, he's always going to be in my life.
Ford's remarks were as more than just counsel. They served as a reminder that Tank was still able to handle his legal troubles while being coached by Mayweather without it having an adverse effect on his career. Floyd had his own issues outside of the ring, but he knew how to keep things in perspective while dominating the sport. He also had the experience, contacts, and expertise to deal with the most difficult business and legal issues facing boxing.
Another thing I want to touch on is the Floyd situation. Floyd is Floyd. That's like I say, Tank is Tank, man. But at the end of the day, the man is chasing greatness.
And you should be supporting that. I always tell you that. You should be supporting that, you know. It's a rocky road that we said what's going on. Just pay attention.
Now that Tank is attempting to do things his own way, Ford thinks it's the biggest error. If he doesn't have the right people guiding him, his career could end before he even gets to fight again, and Ford believes that perhaps Tank deserves it for eliminating the team that helped him achieve greatness. The legal system doesn't care how many knockouts he has, and the courts don't care how many belts he holds.
You know, Calvin, he been with me since I was 7. I used to sleep in Coach Calvin's house. I used to sleep at his job when he was working at a seafood restaurant in Baltimore.
Tank's issue goes beyond this single lawsuit. It also concerns his reputation in boxing. If the court discovers evidence that the Roach fight was manipulated in any way, it could result in him being shunned by the sport. Boxing has always been controversial, but once a fighter is accused of corruption, it's difficult to recover. Networks stop airing their fights, and sanctioning bodies may even take away their titles. For Tank, who has built his career on being a thrilling fighter and a knockout artist, this would be disastrous.
If Coach Calvin was in his corner, he said, we'll see.
Right, because it's nobody's business, but, you know, he didn't mean anything by that, you know.
Facts, there you go.
They forever family.
Boxing fans, analysts, and even other fighters are now questioning whether Tank truly struggled that night, if something else was going on, if the fight was truly close, or if the decision was already made before the opening bell. With Calvin Ford no longer in his corner, Tank lacks the steady voice of experience reminding him to stay focused. The Roach fight was already one of his worst performances, and now that he is facing this lawsuit, people are looking at it even more closely.
Was the first one in the gym, the last one out the gym. Tank used to sit on the ring like this and watch me train.
How old is he at this point?
He was like 7, 8.
Okay.
A lot of stuff that I was giving my son was giving it to Tank. So it was a perfect fit. The Tank was like the fan.
The court's decision in this lawsuit will decide everything, and if Tank is found guilty of any wrongdoing, his 28-month suspension might become even longer. If Tank doesn't take action now, things could grow worse. Ford's message was clear. Tank needs to return to being a fighter, stop attempting to run the boxing business without the right people supporting him, stay out of trouble, avoid any more legal issues, and, most importantly, prove that he still belongs at the top of the sport because boxing is currently evolving without him. 4 years, Calvin Ford and Gervonta Davis were inseparable. Their relationship was more than just boxing. It was personal. Ford had been there from the start, helping to shape Davis into the star he is today. However, on March 1st, Davis entered the ring for the first time without Ford and had his first non-victory fight, a majority draw against Roach. Some claim it was a robbery, while others believe it was karma for dismantling a winning team. It's still unclear exactly what caused this split, but Ford downplayed it, saying he simply took a step back.
Man, I'm not. Honestly, I thought I should have won without that being counted a knockdown. Look, I ain't the ref. I ain't really, you know what I'm saying? Like, if he had to wipe short out his eye, he had to wipe short out his eye. But the rules do state, if you voluntarily take a knee, then that's an automatic 8 count.
No, he came to see me dead. He's worried about you and slowing down since he knows that I hang around with my amateurs. On the surface, it seems like Ford was just trying to make time for his younger fighters when he said, "You know me. Both of you know me very well. I spend time with my amateurs all the time." However, many find that explanation to be unsatisfactory because Ford had always balanced his work with amateurs and still made time for Tank. So why would he abruptly distance himself from his biggest fighter just before one of the most contentious bouts of Tank's career?
Calvin is Calvin, you know what I mean? I got Calvin tatted on me. Calvin ain't going nowhere. Y'all don't even know Calvin for CCO. I know Calvin, you know what I mean? I don't know.
According to some insiders, Ford wasn't pleased with the way Tank was managing his career, as evidenced by the lawsuit over the Roach fight, his legal issues, and the ongoing chaos surrounding his name. Ford had witnessed this phenomenon before with other fighters who had talent, but allowed distractions to destroy their potential. Perhaps he didn't want to be involved in another collapse. And let's not forget, Ford was always a devoted soldier under Mayweather Promotions, and he witnessed firsthand how Floyd helped Tank navigate the business side of boxing. However, after Tank broke away from Mayweather and took charge of his own career, things changed. It became more difficult to secure fights, he accumulated legal issues, and he is currently facing a 28-month boxing ban. The key question is whether this would have happened had Ford been by his side.
Hey, Tank, would Calvin be with you on this fight? What are you saying? Huh? Would Calvin be with you on this fight?
I don't know. Let's see.
Barry Hunter took Ford's place on fight night after he stepped back, but the fans weren't impressed. Hunter is undoubtedly a well-respected coach who has trained elite fighters like the Peterson brothers and possesses years of experience at the highest level. But he wasn't Calvin Ford. Instead, he didn't have a close, fatherly bond with Tank. And when Tank started having trouble against Roach, it revealed Ford would have known exactly what to say and how to motivate Tank to get through those difficult times. Instead, Tank appeared completely uninspired and out of rhythm, and he wasn't the same amazing performer that fans had come to expect. Some claim that Hunter wasn't the right fit, while others claim that Tank didn't listen to anyone that evening.
It was great for me. I got 2 head coaches that's going to this is fire. I'm probably the only one that could do that or ever done it in the sport. Like bring 2 head coaches together. You know what I mean? So it worked out in my favor, man. You know what I mean?
The big question now is whether this split is permanent. Ford hasn't publicly stated that it is, but there are indications that he is focused on his younger fighters, isn't in a rush to return to Tank's camp, and, most importantly, didn't seem bothered by the fact that he wasn't in Tank's corner during the Roach fight. If Ford truly saw himself working with Tank in the long run, he would have been pushing to get things back on track and talking about how Tank needs to focus. But instead he sounds like a man who has moved on, and if that's the case, then Tank is on his own.
The fight, you understand, because Roach he come to fight, and I think it's a great fight. Everybody talking all that stuff about why Roach, because he signed and took the fight, you know what I'm saying, and it's good for
Freddie Roach and Manny Pacquiao had their ups and downs, and this wouldn't be the first time a professional fighter had broken up with their longtime coach. There were tense moments between Canelo and Eddie Rosso, and even before his biggest fights, Tyson Fury changed trainers. However, what's different in this case is that Tank is not only dealing with a coaching change, but also with a potentially career-ending legal issue. This is the worst time for him to be without the one coach who really knows him well.
So everything is good with Calvin, because it's the first time we shot the head trainer in a while.
Yeah, for sure. Calvin, again, I said Calvin's pops, you know what I mean? He will always be around, you know what I mean?
Tank's future is currently in doubt. If the court judges against him in the Roach lawsuit, his boxing career will be put on pause for 28 months, which equates to 2 years and 4 months without any fights, income, or advancement. Gervonta's career is at a significant turning point. After the contentious draw against Lamont Roach, Davis's reputation took a severe hit, shattering the aura of unbeatenness that once surrounded him. For the first time in his career, his next move isn't just about picking the biggest fight. It's about survival. If he doesn't make the right choice now, he might find himself entirely removed from the boxing conversation.
What does he mean to you when you hear that name? What does he mean when you first hear that?
A father. Father. And then he's one of the guys that held a lot of this, like this whole family together.
4 years, Davis had established himself as one of the world's most exciting fighters thanks to his devastating knockouts, ability to turn heads, and brazen confidence. However, that was before the Roach fight, before his relationship with Calvin Ford ended, before the lawsuit, and now every move Tank makes is scrutinized. The most well-known name circulating at the moment is Vasily Lomachenko, the Ukrainian legend. When he returns, though, he can walk right into a big fight, and according to his manager EIS Kuz, Tank is the perfect opponent.
Also, something we gotta work on in the corner, for sure.
What is a Shakur and what is a Tank? What are the skills and financial advantages of a Tank? When a Tank fights, it's a more fascinating fight, and at the moment, Lomachenko is the best opponent to take on a Tank. Tank should be delighted to hear those words. The situation becomes complicated when LS team essentially calls him out, stating that they would rather fight him than Shakur Stevenson. Does Tank even want that battle? Some believe that defeating Lomachenko would be catastrophic, while others believe that this is the ideal opportunity for Davis to make amends. A victory against Lomo would silence detractors, restore his supremacy at lightweight, and reintroduce him as the division's most exciting fighter.
He got lucky in the draw. He did a good fight though. I thought he won it, but man, he gotta just create more action. That's a sparring session as far as I'm concerned. But god damn, that's not the Gervonta I know.
Even at 36, Lomachenko has the movement, experience, and ring IQ to cause Tank major issues. Given how Davis struggled against Roach, there are serious concerns about whether Tank is currently prepared for a fighter of LS caliber. In addition, there is the court case. If Roach's team files a lawsuit against Tank, Tank could be out of boxing for more than 2 years. It is unlikely that Lomachenko would even wait that long.
On social media. Oh, you go love on social media? Well,
that's easy to do, right? Social media, I can call out Mike Tyson.
The question would be asking a pregnant woman who just gave a birth, would you like to have another child?
Yeah, right.
Who will fight Shakur Stevenson in the end if LMA isn't an option? After Tank's draw with Roach, Stevenson's management may believe that Tank isn't even worth the risk anymore. The Shakur Stevenson bout has been rumored for years, but it has never come close to happening. Shakur has been criticizing Tank, claiming that he would easily defeat him, that he is too good for Davis, and that the Baltimore puncher couldn't handle his defense. Tank, on the other hand, has written off Stevenson as uninteresting, claiming that he isn't a true draw, but now that his reputation is in doubt, some people think he has no other option.
36-year-old man, the extensive 300-plus amateur fights, 2 Olympic Games, Pan American Games. Y'all don't know how much it takes to do that. And the difference between having one great night winning the World Championship title and having a great run, winning 2 gold medals, means you did 4 or 5 fights in 2 weeks span, week and a half span.
Although a fight against Shakur would be extremely popular and revive Tank's popularity prior to the Roach incident, it wouldn't be a good fight for him stylistically. If Tank had trouble catching Roach clean, how would he handle Stevenson? Even Weiss, if he lost, it would ruin his career. Stevenson's defense is excellent. He frustrates opponents, wins rounds without taking damage, and makes them miss. Although Stevenson isn't a powerful puncher, if he outclasses Tank for 12 rounds, it might be worse than a knockout defeat, leading some to wonder if Davis was ever as good as they believed.
Who have Shakur? What have Shakur done? What have he done in a sport? He haven't done nothing. The young one is looking more better than him.
Who that?
The Keyshawn. Keyshawn looking way more better than this. I keep screaming his name. He haven't done nothing.
The truth is that Tank is in a difficult situation and needs a victory, but not just any victory. He needs about that sparks conversation. If Stevenson is too dangerous, perhaps Devin Haney is the best opponent. Tank and Haney have been competing against each other for years, and now might be the ideal time for them to face off. Tank and Haney both need a major victory to show the world that they are still at the top of the sport, but here's the problem. Haney's stock has fallen. Would Haney have to drop back down to lightweight, or would Tank move up to fight him? Haney still retains the world title at 140 pounds. Neither sounds like the best solution.
That age, I think he was like 17. I wasn't that much older than him. I think we probably like 3 years older, apart, but I feel as though he slowed down. All that partying and drinking and stuff slowed him down.
Moreover, Ryan Garcia's rematch with Tank would undoubtedly sell despite the no contest result in Garcia's victory over Haney. Ryan's name is still hot and is still a major draw. The first fight ended with Tank stopping Garcia with a body shot, but since then Ryan has looked stronger and more confident, and let's be honest, Garcia loves drama. If he senses that Tank is vulnerable, he'll be the first one calling him out. Some believe that Tank's best move is to forget about belts, forget about rankings, and just go for the biggest money fight available. A Garcia rematch would make more money than a Lomachenko or Stevenson fight.
Gervonta, what was the conversation about with your #1 fan out there?
Oh, Ryan? He's crazy. He's crazy. Talk about rematch. He said I was the best at 135 to 42.
However, this is the issue. Tank may not even be able to select his next opponent if the lawsuit doesn't work out for him. Even if he prevails in court, the damage has already been done. For years, Tank was the division's most feared fighter, a knockout artist who could end a fight at any time. But after what happened against Roach, that aura is waning. And let's not forget that he no longer has Calvin Ford on his side. Some claim that this whole situation began when Tank chose to move on from Ford. Perhaps it was only a one-fight break, or perhaps they will reunite. However, it appears that Tank is currently running out of allies. The boxing world changes quickly. One moment you are the division's most feared fighter, and the next you're an afterthought. If Tank doesn't make the right move soon, he might find himself looking in from the outside. And let's face it, he wouldn't be the first celebrity to fall. But how do you see it? Please leave a comment below and subscribe for more.